morning. Check, check, check. Good morning. Check 1 2 3 1 2 3. Check 1 2 3. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Well, it's hard to tell, but there's a little onion over there. Oh, Coco. Nata de Coco. Good morning. As you can tell, the end is right there. Doing Deanne's job as my manager. She hasn't been my manager for many months now. I think more than 6 months, I think. Good morning, Ando. Holy shit, today is you guys are excited, aren't ya? Come have a seat, have a seat. Thank you so much. Yes. Deanne knew that. Hello, good morning. Sorry, I wanted to do the reading earlier, but then I don't know. I think it's just I was trying to catch up on my work, and also the Lunar New Year happening right now. So I mean, it's already like half of the Lunar New Year gone. We celebrate for 15 days, and it's the 9th day now or the 10th day now. I don't really I'm not counting, don't really care. All I know that I ate a lot, and every day I feel like I'm on the verge of vomiting. I should give Deanne a stool or something to stand in front of the... I can't even see Deanne. Yeah, so for a long time now, I've been doing my readings in the room. Good morning, Swiss Roll! Oh my gosh! There's so many of you today, this morning. Okay, if that's the case, I'm not gonna, like, talk too much nonsense. Like, man, Nata, I'm so tempted to buy the chess piece. I really want to buy the chess piece. But is it worth the money? I don't know. I'll see. Okay. Talk more nonsense. You know, I've been criticized in my YouTube. Not criticized. I'm exaggerating. But basically, in my YouTube, there are people who actually put a timestamp where I start reading. So what I realized is that people on Twitch wants me to talk nonsense, and then people on YouTube wants to just listen to my reading. Oh, Deanne should do the reading one day, huh? By the way, can you guys hear me? My microphone? I mean, I'm like, because my microphone is like in a weird angle and I can't really change it, so I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me while I read. Man, do you like my hat? I like my hat. See how bloated a scholar's hot bar is? Clear voice? Okay, that I have to be careful not to burp. Morning, Tisty. Everyone's here. Okay. Loud and clear, loud and clear. Is it too loud though? That's the question. But your soft toy here, nice. That looks legit like a soft toy on your lap. Yeah, so for a while now I've been doing my readings in my room. I wanted to come back down to the basement because it's such a beautiful place that I decorated and then I didn't use it. I wanted to change this into like a reading room plus like maybe like I don't know, like gaming board game room where I put a table and I put triple triad card in between these two chairs or something. I'm still like thinking. But I don't know. I like the flexibility of having like two places to do my reading, but I'm also scared that people might get confused easily. Like, do we go to the room? Do we go to the basement? But I already closed my room's door and then put like a greeting that says "Go to the basement for nudibble." And then Diane, I'm still waiting for Diane to like redecorate her house so that I can also have a space to do my reading. Last time I did my readings in Diane's house, it was super nice. That setting was like damn good. What time now? 11:06. How are y'all? How y'all been? Enough about me. How have y'all been this holiday? I mean, it's holiday, but I don't feel like it's holiday because I'm working almost every day. How have y'all been? Tell me about your holiday. The rich people in my housing area has like, oh, your house and your lottery. Oh, poor guy. That's lottery extreme. Housing extremes for you. You can probably clear unreal or ultimate. The chances of clearing an ultimate than getting a house in this game is fucking higher, I guess. Both studying and working, or just studying on, or just working? Let me know. The end is my party finder up. Just curious, cause we'll have a chit chat until 11:10. Then we'll start reading. Did you guys get to those who are Chinese? Do you guys get a lot of bread packets? Ang pao? Did you guys get ang paos? Is the ang pao this year better than last year? Let me know. Cause I haven't opened mine yet. I always open it like on the after the 15th day, after the Lunar New Year finished. Oh, final year and part-time. Jesus Christ. You know, the last time I went to your country, no, dox you. Not that. I think probably everyone know where you're from. But last time I went to your country, I was like buying bubble tea from Koi. And when I was looking at, like, waiting for my bubble tea, that was like a brochure, a banner, not brochure, a banner that says like, join our team. And it was like, the basics is like 2,000 something for like a full-timer. And it's like a part-timer is like, I don't know how many dollars. It's like more than $10 per hour of part-time payment and a lot of benefits. And I was looking at it, I was like, maybe I should move here to work in Koi, since I like the bubble tea anyway. Because I just thought to myself, like, that's fucking insane basics. That this is how a proper, like, country is being run, whereby your minimum wage is so fucking high. I don't know. Is that your minimum wage? I don't know. Or is it just Koi being very, very generous with their workers, with their staff? I have no clue. By the way, isn't this lighting beautiful? Zapok found it. Through his retainer or something. I don't know. Look at it, just beautiful. So yeah, I mean, that's a. What's your favorite bubble tea? Do you guys like like milky type of bubble tea, or do you guys like tea of bubble tea? Like clear tea. I like passion fruit green tea. And no matter which bubble tea place I go to, I always order passion fruit green tea. And then I do not want bubbles in it. I want nata de coco. I want nata de coco in it. And you know, oh my god, you just reminded me. I'm so sad. There used to be this this bubble tea brand called Ochado. I don't know if you guys even know because you guys are so young. I'm so old. Like there was this one called Ochado. It's like from Japan. I mean, I guess it's supposed to be Japanese team or from Japan. I don't know, right? But it's called Ochado. They have this Okinawa milk tea that is like super fucking good. And it's like the taste is like so different from everything else. I would say it compares to Earl Grey milk tea, but better than Earl Grey milk tea. I don't know what makes it so different or so nice. This is Okinawa milk tea or something like that. Like that's the only time I would order a milk tea bubble tea because it was so good. But there was just way too many bubble tea shops or brands in my country that Ochado just went out of phase and then it's just gone one day, and I was like just so sad. But after I moved to Ando's country for about like half a year or so. I worked there for like half a year, and Koi was the only bubble tea shop that I ever go to. And Koi was the first one that introduced me to passion fruit green tea. And from then on, I just order passion fruit green tea everywhere I go. Everywhere. But Koi still makes the best passion fruit green tea. So if you have a Koi in your country or any other bubble tea shop really, I really suggest you guys to order passion fruit green tea plus nata de coco, 0 sugar, 0 ice. Bring it home, put it into your fridge for like half an hour, and then drink it super cold. It's the fucking best. Koi makes the best passion fruit green tea. I love it. I love it. If you guys hear a cat meowing in the background, that's my cat being locked in my room with me because we have a cleaner today to clean the house. Alright, we are way past reading time. Yes, always no sugar. Don't take sugar, guys. Sugars are worse than drugs. No, not really, but sugar is no good for you. I'm scared of that because my parents have diabetics and soon I will have it too. Okay, so I'm gonna start reading. I'm not taking out any of my Banuna points. Oh wait, hang on. Let me check my Banuna points. I think maybe I have something that I need to like take away. Let me take away some Banuna points, redemption stuff. Alright, sure. That's done. Alrighty. Okay. I guess we are. You guys are ready to listen to the reading, right? Okay. We are not gonna wait for anyone new to come in. We have Diane, we have Ando, we have Swiss Roll, we have Nata de Coco, and we have Twisty in my chat, and that is more than enough for me to start reading. So, listen carefully. Today, we are reading Kusamakura, written in 1906 by Natsume Sōseki. my favorite author. Let me have my tea ready. There's an introduction page in introduction essay for this book, so I'm gonna read that as well, so you guys can know a little bit more about Natsume Sōseki and the history of like Japan around that time, and kind of like why Natsume Sōseki is like being reveled as the modern literature grandpa, basically. Alrighty, ready? Natsume Sōseki, Kusamakura. Introduction. Kusamakura is an extraordinary work, written at an extraordinary time in Japan's history, when the nation was tumbling headlong into the 20th century and towards its modern miracle, even as its traditional past everywhere still haunted it. Kusamakura was conceived out of this double consciousness and embodies in it fascinating ways. It is very much a novel of its historical moment, a literary experiment that was as new and exciting as the great experiment that was Meiji era of Japan. Until 1868, when the Meiji era began, Japan had maintained a fiercely isolationist policy that kept it culturally and politically intact for centuries. When the nation finally chose, after a brief internal struggle, to submit to external pressure and open its doors, this largely untouched world of old Japan was suddenly subjected to violent upheavals, with the immediate rush to modernize and westernize. In Kusamakura, the powerful and inexorable transforming impetus that was impelling Japan out of its past and into a very different future is embodied in the image of the steam train of the final scene of hurtling blindly into the darkness ahead, with its freight of hapless passengers. An image of the sinister serpent of civilization that carries the novel off into its open-ended future. In this final scene, the steam train is bearing away men who are leaving to fight in the Russo-Japanese War of 1904 to 1905, a war that had just drawn to its victorious end when Natsume Sōseki wrote this work. Though written at the height of the nationalistic fervor that followed this victory, the novel portrays the war as a bloodbath whose distant echo of guns has penetrated even the most idyllic piece of a mountain village that is otherwise virtually untouched by the modern world. Unlike so many of his contemporaries, Sōseki had a complex and deeply uneasy relationship with the new modernity. One second, something caught in my throat. Sorry. Kusamakura is at odds not only with the generalized euphoric embrace of modernity, but also more specifically with the contemporary trends in Japan's modern literature. Japanese prose writers had rushed to reject the earlier traditions and set about forging a new literature modeled on Western concepts of the novel. The naturalism of 19th century French writers such as Émile Zola provided the model for the works that aim at a gritty realism and an emphasis on human entanglements. Sōseki, however, instinctively rebelled against this unthinking rejection of Japan's native literary tradition and the focus on the more squalid aspects of the human world. Kusamakura is his attempt at an answer to this literary vogue. reaching back into Japan's literary past to bring its riches to bear on the possible evolution of the new Japanese novel. Sōseki was in an ideal position to seek a new literary synthesis of East and West. Natsume Kinosuke, Sōseki was his nom de plume, was born in 1867, the final year of the old regime, into a family of minor bureaucrats whose fortunes declined rapidly with the onset of Meiji era. A late and unwanted child in a large family, he was adopted the following year by a childless couple, then returned 9 years later when the couple divorced to his parents, whom he believed to be his grandparents. This loveless and lonely childhood marked him a sense of estrangement and dislocation that haunted him through his adult years and echoed the dislocations and questioning of identity that were hallmarks of Meiji-era Japan. Sōseki's education too epitomized the split consciousness of his time. As a child, he was given a traditional education with a strong grounding in the Chinese and Japanese classics. His love of this rich literary tradition is a constant presence in Kusamakura and to a lesser extent in everything he wrote. A bright student, he later chose to concentrate on the study of English, which was an important prerequisite for a scholarly career, and at Tokyo University he majored in English literature, but the classics remained his first and deepest love. Good morning, Carrie Ro. Good morning. We are reading Kusamakura by Natsume Sōseki. Here again, he was haunted by a sense of dislocation between his inheritance and the world in which he found himself, which he embraced with an unwilling fascination. Where others were throwing themselves indiscriminately into the huge experiment of modernization with the largely uncritical adulations of Western culture and its values, Sōseki studied it carefully and was impressed and intrigued by it, but found himself unable to embrace it wholeheartedly. He belonged to neither world and to both, and this uneasy, complex identity informs his writing, making him a uniquely Meiji voice. Thank you, Carrie. Once he graduated, Sōseki took up a series of teaching posts, although he felt himself to be more scholar than teacher. During the following years, he moved first to a school in Matsuyama in Shikoku, where he married, and then to Kumamoto in Kyushu. While there, he paid a visit to the nearby hot spring village of Oama. Thank you, Hikari! Thank you! While there, he paid a visit to the nearby hot spring village of Oama, which evidently formed the basis for his depiction of Nakoi in Kusamakura. Kumamoto was far from Tokyo, and such small villages at the turn of the century would still have preserved virtually intact the traditional Japan that was Sōseki's first inheritance and love. Perhaps the visit to Oama stayed in his imagination as the epitome of a brief journey into the apparently idyllic past to set against the stresses and alienation of life in modern Japan. Although he had not yet begun to write, Sōseki was already absorbing themes and materials for his later novels. In 1900, the Japanese government provided Sōseki with a scholarship to study in England for 2 years. Part of its design to send promising scholars abroad to bring back an informed understanding of key aspects of Western civilization. Unwillingly, Sōseki set sail for London, leaving behind his wife and baby daughter, The 2 years that followed were probably the most unhappiest of his life. He was poor, he was intensely lonely, and he found nothing to love about the English or their way of life. England was aesthetically depressing for him. We can guess that the occasional criticism of England scattered throughout Kusamakura echo the author's own sentiments. He took the meager lodging, spoke to few people other than his landlady, and spent most of his time reading in his room. Since he failed to enroll himself in any formal course of study, he read widely, not only in literature but also in art, philosophy, and science, all the while fervently attempting to formulate for himself a position that would allow him to be true to his Japaneseness in relation to this very different culture whose influence was so rapidly transforming Japan. Yet, in the unhappy depths of his time in London, Sōseki never simply rejected the West as a less diligently honest and inquiring person he might have done. He found much that earned his respect, particularly in the realms of literature and art. Kusamakura is on one level a working through of his complex and ambivalent relationship to Western culture. A quotation from Shelley's poem To the Skylark springs as readily to the protagonist's mind as a quotation from Chinese poetry, and the novel's frequent long digressions are often devoted to much the same sort of pondering on the relative merits of the two cultures as would have filled Sōseki's thoughts and notebooks during his lonely days in London. These questions remain of intense concern to him throughout his life. To such questions, there could be no final answer. Kusamakura can be read as a journey through his terrain, a philosophical novel that delicately probes important propositions about the two cultures but necessarily draws no conclusions. When Sōseki returned to Japan in 1903, he was required to take up a post teaching in the First National College in Tokyo, as well as lecturing in English literature at Tokyo University. His nerves, never strong, had been brought close to the breaking point by the London years. Partly, it seems, as a way of soothing and entertaining himself, he began to write fiction. In 1905, the gently humorous I Am a Cat, Wagahai wa Neko de aru, was serialized in a magazine and proved immediately popular. Botchan followed in 1906, sealing his reputation as a new and exciting novelist. Kusamakura appeared in the same year. So the first novel that we read in this channel was I Am a Cat by Natsume Sōseki. And then the last book that we read by Natsume Sōseki so far is Botchan, and now we are reading Kusamakura. By this time, his 4-year teaching term was almost over, and Sōseki's fame as a novelist was now such that Asahi's newspaper offered him a monthly salary to serialize all future novels. To everyone's astonishment, Sōseki accepted, turning his back on a likely professorship and honorable academic career. From 1907 until his death 10 years later at the end of 1916, he was a professional writer. During this time, he wrote steadily at the rate of around one novel a year. The works that would establish him as the foremost author at his time, and the revered father of modern Japanese literature, whose works are still read and loved today. Kusamakura forms a kind of a bridge between the first and light-hearted novels and the works of Sōseki wrote as an established professional author, such as And Then, Sorekara 1909, The Wanderer, Hojin 1912, and Kokoro in 1914, in which loneliness and introspection have become the dominant theme and tone. For all its seriousness of purpose, Kusamakura carries through from the early novels a delightful lightness and a wry, gently ironic humor. It is, however, in almost every way an anomaly in terms both of Soseki's work and of the modern Japanese novel written when Sōseki was in his late 30s, balanced at the age of a professional writing career, and self-consciously placing itself at the beginning of a new century, with Japan balanced on the edge of its own very different future. Kusamakura embodies a moment when Sōseki and Japanese literature paused to look backward and forward and to play with possibilities. It was, Sōseki said, written in the space of a week. The claim seems hardly credible, yet a certain intensity and tightness of the interwoven motifs certainly suggests concentrated and even feverish writing. By any standard, the prose is extraordinarily polished. If it was indeed written in a week, it stands as supreme testimony to Sōseki's mastery of style and language. The discursive passages often rise to a sonorous ornateness that echoes the classical Chinese-influenced prose of an earlier era, replete with the parallelism and phrasal balancing of Chinese literary writing. This style was already dated and somewhat difficult in its time. To modern readers, it is sometimes almost impenetrable. The descriptive passages, on the other hand, are elegantly poetic in the best Japanese tradition. In style as well as in content, Sōseki was self-consciously experimenting with new forms by drawing on all. In a brief piece entitled My Kusamakura, Yoga Kusamakura, Sōseki stated that his aim had been to write a haiku-style novel. Previous novels, he said, were works of the manner of the senryu, the earthier version of haiku that looks like at everyday human life with a wryly humorous eye. But it seems to me, he wrote, that we should also have the haiku-style novel that leaves true beauty. He had written Kusamakura in a spirit precisely opposite to the common idea of what a novel is. All that matters in this work is that a certain feeling, a feeling of beauty, remain with the reader. I have no other objectives, thus there's no plot and no development of events. The plot is certainly exiguous. A nameless young artist sets off on a purposely aimless walking trip across the mountains to the remote village of Nakoi, where he stays at a hot spring inn and indulges in an artistic experiment to observe all he sees, humans included, with a detached, aesthetic eye. In the manner of the artists and poets of old, the novel traces this process, recording his experiences in first person, most particularly his encounter with the startling, intriguing, and beautiful Nami, the daughter of the establishment. This scene is set perfectly for a romantic entanglement, but nothing happens. In the final chapter, he joins Nami and her family as they travel by boat down to the town, returning himself and us to the modern civilization. The novel flirts with the plot as Nami flirts with the young man, never intending any serious development, intent on its own needs. Nami, the center of the novel, is, as Sōseki pointed out, still the still point, the enigma around which the artist moves, watching and pondering the highly dramatized series of images of herself that she proffers him. When at last he glimpses in her moment of unguarded pity, it completes the picture he had been working towards in his mind and with its novel. Thank you, my friend. Kusamakura embodies its own experiment. It sets off with the artist to explore just how and to what extent the serene beauty that was the artistic ideal of the past might be achieving in terms of the 20th century Japanese consciousness and its artistic products. The lofty, unhuman, and non-emotional approach to which this artist aspires, the ideal of a cool and uninvolved aesthetic response to all experience, can only be compromised by experience itself. And this is indeed what happens in the course of the novel. Yet, the original aim of this experimental journey to attempt to keep the beauty as the central focus is retained through all its testings. Kusamakura succeeds in embodying difficult balances. Like Sōseki, this artist is deeply imbued with an understanding of and respect for the traditions he has inherited, yet he is an artist in the Western style, a modern man with a wide-ranging grasp of Western culture. He has returned out of the very different present to bask for a brief time in the old world of beauty and serenity that the village of Nakoi embodies. But he necessarily brings with himself the outsider's eye of modern Japan, with all its yearnings and confusions and ironic knowledge of the wider world. The village, still precariously maintained in a timeless past, is slowly revealed as a place whose dream is disturbed by the distant violent disruptions of modern world. Like the artist, with his problematic outsider's vision, Nami, the central embodiment of the beauty that he encounters and with which he must come to terms, is also returned from the outside world. And her confusion and complexities cannot be contained by the village or by any simple portrayal of her. At the end of the novel, she remains essentially elusive. The artist, in fact, never succeeds in painting Nami, whose name itself means beauty, that potential amalgam of Western and Japanese artistic vision that has haunted him. And after the experiment of Kusamakura, Sōseki likewise did not pursue his vision of the new novel that takes beauty as its central aim and premise. He seems to have abandoned his brave hopes for this haiku-style novel, and as Japan's answer to the realistic novel of Western-style naturalism. Honesty about the truth of modern experience compelled him to focus his subsequent novels on the contemporary world of the new Japan, and to explore its lonely consciousness. Kusamakura undoubtedly does achieve its aim of impressing the reader with a pervasive sense of beauty. Its intensely visual writing gives us a rich experience of the world filtered through the double aesthetic consciousness of the East and the West that the artist's protagonist embodies. Woven through is the voice of the first-person consciousness that experiences and comments, thinking through implications, sometimes opinionated and posturing, a gently ironic yet deeply serious voice that both is and is not the voice of Sōseki himself. This sometimes difficult discursive style brings a strong philosophical dimension to the work. The constant digressions are also a foil to any latent urge towards plot. They hold the reader firmly inside the term of the novel to explore experience rather than be swept along by it. We, like the protagonist and Sōseki himself, emerge from this journey with its larger questions left unanswered, but with a wealth of fresh understanding and experience that has made the journey well worthwhile. Introduction written by Meredith McKinney. Meredith McKinney is the translator of the book. And that was the introduction. Thank you so much, Carrie Rowe. Thank you for Hikari for the beats share, and thank you to Meshfan for the compliment. Thank you so much. A sip of coffee, and we're gonna start chapter 1. Oh, smart Swiss roll. Yeah, coffee. My cat is. Let me get my cat. Grab it. Where's he? Oh. See, on my lap. Oh, yay! Thank you. Now you're part of the child army of Seed in Final Fantasy VIII. Are you proud of yourself? Thank you so much for the follow. How many people can recognize the sound bites that I use? I wonder. Okay, chapter 1. Oh, thank you for the follow. My goodness, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it so much. Now you are also a part of the child army of seed in Final Fantasy VIII. We are all seeds. We are all child army. Alrighty, ladies and gents. Oh, I didn't see you. I should have panned my camera there. Oh, Mesh is here. Okay, Mesh. Hey. Okay. Zoom in a little bit. Cutie. Alright. Chapter 1 of Kusamakura by Natsume Sōseki. I have a cat on my lap. If you hear his purr, that's a blessing. As I climb the mountain path, I ponder. If you work by reason, you grow rough-edged. If you choose to dip your oar into the sentiment stream, it will sweep you away. Demanding your own way only serves to constrain you. However you look at it, the human world is not an easy place to live. And when its difficulties intensify, you find yourself longing to leave that world and dwell in some easier one. And then, when you understand at last that the difficulties that will dog you wherever you may live, this is when poetry and art are born. The creators of our human world are neither gods nor demons, but simply people. Those ordinary folks who happen to live right there next door. You may feel the human realm is a difficult place, but there is surely no better world to live in. You will find another only by going to the non-human, and the non-human realm will surely be a far more difficult place to inhabit than the human. So, if this is the best of worlds proves a hard one for you, you must simply do your best to settle in and relax as you can, and make this short life of ours, if only briefly, an easier place in which to make your home. Herein lies the poet's true calling, the artist's vocation. We owe our humble gratitude to all the practitioners of the arts, for they mellow the harshness of our human world and enrich the human heart. Yes, a poem, a painting, can draw the stings of troubles from a troubled world and lay in its place a blessed realm before our grateful eyes. Music and sculpture will do likewise. Yet, strictly speaking, in fact, there is no need to present this world in art. You have to only conjure the world up before you, and there you will find a living poem, a fount of song. No need to commit your thoughts to paper. The heart will already sing with a sweet inner euphony. No need to stand before your easel and limn with a brush and paint. The world's vast array of forms and colors already sparkles within the inner eye. It is enough simply to be able thus to view the place we live, and to garner the camera of sentient heart, these pure, limpid images of the midst of our sullied world.
And so, even if no verse ever emerges from the mute poet, even if the painter never sets brush to the canvas, he is happier than the wealthiest of men, happier than any strong-armed emperor or a pampered child in this vulgar world of ours. For he can view human life with an artist's eye. He is released from the world's illusory sufferings. He is able to come and go at ease in a realm of transcendent purity, to construct a unique universe of art, and thereby destroy the binding fetters of self-interest and desire. When I had lived in this world for 20 years, I understood that it was a world worth living in. At 25, I realized that light and dark are sides of the same coin. That wherever the sun shines, the shadow too must fall. Now, at 30, here is what I think. Where joy grows deep, sorrow must deepen. The greater one's pleasures, the greater the pain. If you try to sever the two, life falls apart. Try to control them, and you will be met with failure. Money is essential. But with the increase of what is essential to you, anxieties will invade you even in sleep. Love is a happy thing. But as this happy love swells and grows heavy, you will yearn instead for the happy days before love came into your life. Splendid though he is, a cabinet minister must bear 1,000,000 people on his shoulders. The weight of the whole nation rests heavy upon his back. If something is delicious, it goes hard not to eat it. Yet, if you eat a little, you only desire more. And if you gorge yourself on it, it will leave you unpleasantly bloated. The vague drift of my thought is abruptly interrupted at this point, when my right foot slips on a loose piece of sharp rock. I try to retain balance by shooting my left leg forward to compensate and wind up landing on my bottom. Luckily, however, I have managed to come down a wide boulder about 3 feet across. The painting box slung over my shoulder goes flying out from my side, but otherwise, I escape any damage. As I get back to my feet, my eyes take in the distant scene. To the left of the path soars a mountain peak, in shape rather like an inverted bucket. From foot to summit, it is entirely covered in what be either cypress or cedar, whose bloom black mass is striped and stippled with pale pink of swaths of blossoming wild cherry. The distance is so hazy that all appears with a single wash of blurred shapes and colors. A little nearer, a single bald mountain rises above the others, lowering out over me. Its naked flanks might have been slashed by the axe of some giant. They plunge with a ferocious steepness to bury themselves in the valley floor below. The solitary tree standing on the summit would be a red pine. The very sky between its branches is sharply defined. A few hundred yards ahead of me, the path disappears. But the sight of a red-cloaked figure moving along in my direction far above suggests that a farther climb will bring me to that spot. The path is appallingly bad. Of course, the soil itself could easily be leveled. The trouble is that large rocks are embedded in it. Even were you to smooth the soil, there's no smoothing away these rocks, and even if the rocks were broken up, there would be no way to deal with the larger ones. They tower with serene indifference out of the broken earth of the track, innocent of any impulse to make way for the walker. Since they pay one no heed, there's nothing for it but to climb over them and go around them. And even where there is no rock, the walking is far from easy. The sides of the path rise steeply, while the center forms a deep depression. You could describe this 6 foot width as gouged into a triangular shape whose deep apex lies down the middle of the path. Making one's way along it is more like fording a riverbed than walking a path. But it was never my intention to make this journey in haste, so I set off up in the winding track, taking my time. Suddenly, a skylark burst into song. Directly beneath my feet, I gaze down into the valley but can see no sign of the creature. Only its voice rings out. The rapid notes pour busily forth without pause. It's as if the whole boundless air were being tormented by the 1,000 tiny bites of swarm of fleas. Not for an instant does the bird's outpouring of song falter. It seems it must sing this soft spring day right to its close. Sing it into the light, and then sing it into the darkness again. Up and up the skylark climbs, on and on. It will surely find its death deep in that sky. On and up it climbs, slipping at last into the clouds, and there perhaps its floating forms dissolves, so that finally only the voice is left hanging in the far reaches of the heavens. I turn a sharp rocky corner, then execute a swift perilous swerve to the right to avoid a sudden drop into which a blind man would have tumbled headlong. Looking down, I see far below a vast yellow swath of wild mustard in flower. Perhaps, I think, this is the place that skylark would fall into. Alighting, or no, perhaps it would instead soar upward out of that golden field. Then I imagine the tumbling skylark crossing paths with another as it rises. My final thought was that, whether falling or rising or crossing mid-air, the wild, vigorous song of the skylark would never for an instant cease. Spring makes one drowsy. The cat forgets to chase the mouse. Human forget that they owe money. At times, the presence of the soul itself is forgotten, and one sinks into a deep daze. But when I behold that distant field of mustard blossom, my eyes spring awake. When I hear the skylark's voice, my soul grows clear and vivid within me. It is with its whole soul that the skylark sings, not merely with its throat. Surely, there's no expression of the soul's motion in voice more vivacious or spirited than this. Ah, joy! And to think these thoughts, to taste this joy. This is poetry. Shelley's poem about the skylark immediately leaps to my mind. I try reciting it to myself, but I can only remember 2 or 3 verses. One of them goes, "We look before and after, and pine for what is not. Our sincerest laughter, with some pain is fraught. Our sweetest songs are those that tell of saddest thought." Yes, indeed. No matter how joyful the poet may be, he cannot hope to sing his joy as the skylark does, with such passionate wholeheartedness, oblivious to all thought of before and after. In Chinese poetry, one often finds one suffering expressed as, for instance, 100 weight of sorrow. And similar expressions can be seen in Western poetry too, of course. But for the non-poet, the poet's 100 weight may well be a mere dram or so. It strikes me now that poets are great sufferers. They seem to have more than double the nervous sensitivity of an average person. They may experience exceptional joys, but their sorrows are too boundless. This being the case, it's worth thinking twice before you become a poet. The path continues leveled for a while, with the broadleaf forest on the mountainside to my right, and down to the left to the endless fields of mustard blossoms. My feet occasionally tread down a dandelion as I walk. Its saw-toothed leaves spread itself expansively in all directions, and in the center of its nest is a nest of golden balls. I turned to look back, regretful at having inadvertently trodden on it, while my attention was held by the mustard blossom. But those golden balls are sitting there just as before, still enshrined in its sawtooth circle. What insouciant creatures they are! I returned to my thoughts. Sorrows may be the poet's unavoidable dark companion, but the spirit with which he listens to the skylark songs holds not one jot of suffering. At the sight of the mustard blossoms too, the heart simply dances with delight. Likewise, with the dandelions or cherry blossoms. But now, I suddenly realized that in fact, the cherries have disappeared from the sight. Yes, here among the mountains, and immediate contact with the phenomena of the natural world, everything I see and hear is intriguing for me. No special suffering can arise from simply being beguiled like this. At worst, surely it is tired legs and the fact that I can't eat fine food. But why is there no suffering here? Simply because I see this scenery as a picture. I read it as a set of poems. Seeing it thus as a painting or poetry, I have no desire to acquire the land or cultivate it, or to put a railway through and make a profit. This scenery that adds nothing to the belly or the pocket, fills the heart with pleasure, simply a scenery. And this is surely why there is neither suffering nor anxiety in the experience. This is why the power of nature is precious to us. Nature instantly forges the spirit to a pristine purity and elevates it to the realm of pure poetry. Love may be beautiful. Filial piety may be a splendid thing. Loyalty and patriotism may all be very fine. But when you yourself are in one of these positions, you find yourself sucked into the maelstrom of situations' complex pros and cons. Blind to any beauty or fineness, you cannot perceive where the poetry of this situation may lie. To grasp this, you must put yourself in the disinterested position of an outsider's observer who has the leisurely perspective to be able to comprehend it. A play is interesting, a novel is appealing, precisely because you are a third-person observer of a drama. The person whose interest is engaged by a play or novel has left self-interest temporarily behind. For the space of time that he reads or watches, he himself is a poet. And yet, there's no escaping humans' feelings in the usual play or novel. The players suffer, rage, flail about, and weep, and the observer will find himself identifying with the experience, and suffering, raging, flailing, and weeping with them. The value of the experience may lie in the fact that there is nothing here of greedy self-interest, but unfortunately the other sentiments are more than commonly activated. Therein lies my problem with it. There is no avoiding suffering, rage, failing, and weeping in this world of humankind. Heaven knows I have experienced them myself in the course of my 30 years, and I have enough of them by now. I find it exhausting to be forced to experience the same tired stimuli yet again through a play or novel. The poetry I long for is not the kind that provokes this kind of vulgar emotions. It is poetry that turns its back on earthly desires and draws one's feelings for a time into a world remote from the mundane. No play, however brilliant, is free from human feelings. Rare is the novel that transcends questions of right and wrong. The characteristics of these works is their inability to leave the world behind, particularly in Western poetry based on its Based as it is on human affairs, even the most sublime poem can never aspire to emancipation from this vulgar realm. It is nothing but compassion, love, justice, freedom. Such poetry never deals with anything beyond what is found in the marketplace of the everyday world. No matter how poetic it may be, its feet stay firmly on the ground. It has a permanent eye on the purse. No wonder Shelley sighed so deeply as he listened to the skylark. Happily, in the poetry of the Orient there are works that transcend such a state. By my eastern hedge I pluck chrysanthemums, gazing serenely out of the southern hills. Here we have, purely and simply, a scene in which the world of man is utterly cast aside and forgotten. Beyond the hedge, there is no next-door girl peeping in, no friend is busy pursuing business deals among those hills. For reading it, you feel that you have been washed clean of all sweat of worldly self-interest, of profit and loss in transcendental release. Seated alone in a deep bamboo grove, I pluck my lute, I hum a melody. Nobody knows me here within this wood, only the bright moon comes to shine on me. Oh my god, I love this one. Sorry. Wow, I like that poem. Seated alone in a deep bamboo grove, I pluck my lute, I hum a melody. Nobody knows me here within this wood, only the bright moon comes to shine on me. Oh my god, that's so good. In these few lines, the poet has constructed the space of a whole other universe. The virtues of this universe are not those of contemporary novels such as Hototogisu or Konji Yaksha. They are virtues equivalent to those of a luxurious sleep that releases a mind exhausted by the world of steamships and trains and rights and duties and morals and manners. If such restorative sleep is necessity in this dawning 20th century of ours, then poetry of transcendence must be a precious thing. Unfortunately, our poets today... Oh god. Okay. Sorry, one moment please. My apologies, I got a phone call. Oh, shit. No. Okay, where did I stop? Oh my god, got distracted. Sorry guys. If such restorative sleep is a necessity in this dawning 20th century of ours, then the poetry of transcendence must be a precious thing. Unfortunately, our poets today and their readers have all become infected by Western writers, and no more do they set off in a cheerful little boat upstream to a land of peace and tranquility. I am not a poet by profession, so my intention is not to preach the virtues of Wang Wei or Tao Yuanming to the modern world. It's just that for myself, I find more healing for the heart in the delights of these poems than in the whirl of plays or dance parties. Such poetries give me more pleasure than does Faust or Hamlet. This is precisely why I stroll these spring mountains now with painting box and tripod slung onto my back. I long to breathe and absorb the natural world of Yuan Ming and Wang Wei's poetry, to loiter a while in the realm of unhuman detachment. Call it a whim of mine. I am a human and belong to the world of humans, of course. So for me, the unhuman can last only so long, no matter how much I may enjoy it. Yuan Ming, too, would not have spent the whole year simply gazing at the southern hills, and I imagine Wang Wei was not a man to sleep happily without a mosquito net in the bamboo grove of his. If he had chrysanthemums to spare, Yuan Ming would have sold a lot to the local flower shop, and Wang Wei would have done a deal with his greengrocer over the bamboo shoots. And I am no different. No matter how much I love the skylark and the mustard blossoms, my desire for the unhuman doesn't extend to the bedding down in the mountains for the night. Even up here, after all, one meets with other humans. You will come across a fellow with his kimono skirts tucked at the back and front cloth draped over his head, or a girl in a red wraparound, even an occasional long-faced horse. You may breathe in the rarefied air of this high altitude, deep among the mounds of encircling cypress trees, yet it still holds the smell of a man. Indeed, the place where I am headed tonight in search of peace across these mountains is the all too human realms of the hot spring inn at the village of Nakoi. Nevertheless, how a thing looks depends on how you see it. Listen to the bell, Leonardo da Vinci told his pupils. It is a single sound, but you all hear it variously. A man or a woman too will appear very different depending on your point of view. Since I have come here to devote myself to the unhuman, this is the perspective on humans that I will take, and it is bound to be different from the view I would have from the midst of a life lived deep in the cramped little streets of the crowded world. Very well. Granted that I can't altogether escape the realm of human feelings, at least I can probably maintain the light detachment experienced by the viewer of some classic no drama. The no drama, after all, has its human feelings. There's no guarantee you won't weep at a play like Shiki Kyochi or Sumidagawa. But what we experience in this play is the effect of 3 parts human feelings to 7 parts art. The pleasure we gain from a no play springs not from any skills of presenting the raw human feelings of the everyday world, but from clothing feeling as it is, in layer upon layer of art, and in a kind of slow serenity in deportment not to be found in the real world. How would it be if I chose to view as actions in a no drama the events and people I meet in the course of this journey? Of course, I can't altogether do away with human feeling, but since this journey is essentially poetic in intent, it would be good to use unhuman to seek good effect. and row its little boat as far upstream as possible. The southern hills and bamboo groves of those ancient poems are of a different nature. Of course, nor can I treat human quite as I do the skylarks and mustard blossoms, but my ideal is to approach that state as far as possible and do all I can view humans from its vantage point. The poet Basho, after all, found elegance even in the horse peeing by his pillow. And he composed a haiku about it. Let emulate him then, and deal with the people I meet on this journey, farmer, townsman, village clerk, old man or old woman, on the assumption that each is a small component figure in a landscape scroll painting. Unlike figures in painting, of course, they will all be conducting their lives with a willful independence, but to treat them as normal novelists would do, to pursue the reasons behind their individual actions, delve into their psychological workings, and go into all the ins and outs of the human entanglements would be merely vulgar. Of course, they may move about. One can view the figures in the painting as moving forms after all. But however much they move, those figures remain confined to the flat surface. Once you conceive them as leaping out of the painting, you will find them bumping up against you, and you will become ensnared in the troublesome business of self-interested interactions with them. And the more troublesome they become, the less able you are to view them aesthetically. No, I shall aim to observe people I meet from a lofty and transcendent perspective, and do my best to prevent any spark of human feeling from springing up between us. Thus, however animatedly they may move hither and yon, they won't find it easy to make the leap across to my heart. I will stand watching as before a picture as they rush about inside it, waving their arms. I can gaze with a calm and unflinching eye from the safe distance of 3 feet back. To express it another way, being free of all self-interested motives, I will be able to devote all my energy to observing their actions from the point of view of art. With no other thought in mind, I will be in a fine position to pass lofty judgment on the presence or absence of beauty in all I view. Just as I reach this conclusion, the sky grows suddenly ominous. The seething cloud that a little earlier began to loom overhead has quickly fractured and spread till all around me seems nothing but a sea of cloud, and now a gentle spring rain begin to fall. I've long since left the master blossom fields behind and am now high among the mountains, but how close they are I cannot tell, owing to the veil of fine, almost mist-like rain. When a gust of wind from time to time parts the high clouds, I catch glimpses of the blackish shape of a high ridge off to my right. It seems that just across the valley from me runs a mountain range. Immediately to my right, the foot of another mountain. An occasional pine or some such tree appears suddenly from deep within the dense misty rain. No sooner it is there than it is gone again. Really, I find myself unable to distinguish whether the rain is shifting or the tree of my own dreamy vision. The path has grown surprisingly broad and flat, and I have no difficulty in walking now, but my lack of rain gear makes me hurry on my way. The rain is dripping from my head when I hear, about 10 yards ahead, the tinkle of a little bell, and out of the rainy darkness emerges a pack horse driver. Would there be anywhere to rest around here? I ask. There's a tea house a mile on. You're pretty wet, aren't you? Still a mile to go, I think, and as the driver's figure envelopes itself in rain-like shadowy magic lantern form and becomes lost to sight once more, I watch as the fine-grained rain gradually thickens to long continuous threads, each twisted by the rain. My haori has long since become saturated, and the water has now penetrated my underwear, where it grows tepid from the heat of my body. It is an unpleasant sensation. I tilt my head low and step briskly out. If I picture myself, a sodden figure moving in this vast ink-washed wall of cloud and rain shot through diagonally with a thousand silver arrows, not as myself, but as some other person. That's poetry in this moment. When I relinquish all thoughts of the self as is and cultivate the gaze of pure objectivity, then, for the first time, as a figure in a painting, I attain a beautiful harmony with the natural phenomena around me. The instant I revert to the thoughts of my distress at the falling rain and the weariness of my legs, I lose my place in the world of poem or painting. I am, as before, a mere callow townsman. The swirling brushstrokes of clouds and mist are a closed book to me. No poetic sentiment or falling blossoms or calling birds stirs my breast. I have no way of understanding the beauty of my own self as it moves lonely as cloud and rain among the spring mountains. To begin with, I tilted my hat and stride out. Later, I simply walk with eyes fixed on my feet. In the end, I am plodding unsteadily along with shoulders hunched, the branches filling my vision sway in the blowing rain, which drives in relentlessly from every direction upon the solitary traveler. This is a bit too much of the unhuman for my taste. That's the end of chapter 1. Sorry I got distracted in the middle. I got a phone call from my father and I had to answer. I don't know why every time when I do reading I get so many alerts. Thank you, Swiss Roll. I really do need that. Okay. Alrighty. Short toilet break and I'll be right back. Hello, I'm back. Sorry. I'm gonna put my phone away so that it won't distract me so much. Thank you, Bunny! No, I'm not gonna call you stupid, even though your name
so many of you guys. You guys miss me that much? I'm very surprised that you guys are all here and it's like so active today. Yeah, chat more in my chat box, man. Alright. Okay. We're gonna go with chapter 2. Stop it, Ikari! Thank you, thank you. Yeah, by the way, I'm gonna play. No! Oh man.
Stretch.
Okay. 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 Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Oh. How are you guys enjoying this so far? Is it very pretentious? I don't know. Maybe I'm a very pretentious person, but I really like it so far. The first page itself is like basically Taoism. Like there's no light without dark. There's no pain without pleasure. You know, pretty good shit. I love it. No, stop interrupting. No, I gotta start reading chapter 2 now. But thank you for the follow. That's crazy, you guys. You guys are crazy. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for those who are in the game also. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, one more sip of tea and I'm going to start chapter 2. Chapter 2, Kusamakura by Natsume Sōseki. Anyone there? I call. There is no response. Standing beneath the eaves, I peer in. The smoke-stained paper screen doors beyond the entrance area are firmly shut, and what lies within is invisible. Half a dozen forlorn pairs of rough straw sandals dangle from the eaves rafters, swaying listlessly to and fro. Below them is a neat row of 3 boxes containing cheap cakes, and with a scattering of small coins at their sides. Anyone there? I cry again. Several plump fowl asleep atop a hand mill that is tucked in one corner of the entrance awaken with a start and set a raucous cackle. Beyond the threshold a clay hearth stands, wet and partly discolored by the rain that is still falling. Above it hangs a blackened tea kettle, whether earthenware or metal I cannot tell. Happily, the fire in the hearth is lit. Since there is no reply, I take the liberty of going in and sit myself down on a bench in the entrance area. The fowls flap noisily down from their perch on the hand mill and hop up onto the matting of the raised floor. They might well walk right into the room beyond if the screen doors weren't standing in their way. The rooster gives a lusty crow, and the hen takes up the cry more softly. They seem to view my intrusive presence as they would some fox or dogs. On the stool sits a smoker's tray, about as large as a 2-quart measure. The coil of incense inside it is sending up a tranquil curl of smoke. It is oblivious to the passengers of time. The scene has a simple serenity. The rain gradually eases. After a while, footsteps are heard from within, and then one of the grimy screen doors slides open smoothly. An old woman appears. I've been expecting someone to emerge sooner or later. The fire in the hearth is lit after all. Coins lie scattered about the cake boxes, and the incense is left nonchalantly burning. Someone must eventually appear.
But this casual way of leaving the shop open and unattended is rather different from the city ways I am used to. And to simply go in and make myself at home like this, despite receiving no answer to my call, and to sit there patiently waiting, feels a little like stepping into an earlier century than the 20th. All this intriguing otherworldly that the non-emotional realm I aspire to. What's more, I take an immediate fancy to the face of the old woman who has emerged. 2 or 3 years ago, I saw a Hosho school production of the Noh play Takasago. I remember being struck by the beautiful tableau vivant it made. The old man, brushwood broom on his shoulder, walks 5 or 6 steps along the bridgeway leading to the stage, then turns slowly back to face the old woman behind him. That pose, as they stand facing each other, remains vividly before my eyes to this day. From where I was seated, the old woman's face was more or less directly facing me. Ah, how beautiful, I thought. And in that moment, her expression burned itself like a photograph into my heart. The face before me now and the face are so intimately alike that the same blood might flow in both. I'm afraid I've come in and made myself at home. Not at all. I have no idea you were here. There was quite some rain, wasn't it? You must have had hard going with this unfortunate weather. My goodness, you are certainly wet. Let me get the fire going and dry things off for you. If you had just built up that fire kettle, I can stand beside it and dry off. I seem to have got rather cold sitting here. I'll get it going right away. How about a cup of tea? She rises to her feet and chases the fowl away with a quick shoo shoo, clucking indignantly. They scramble off the age-stained matting, trample through the cake boxes and flee out to the road, the rooster depositing a dropping in one of the boxes as he goes. Here you go, says the old woman, reappearing in no time with a teacup on a tray made from a hollow piece of wood. In the bottom of the cup, which is stained blackish brown from years of tea, 3 plum blossoms have been casually sketched with a few quick brushstrokes. Have a cake! She fetches me a sesame twist and some ground rice stick cake from one of the boxes that Frau trampled through. I look them over warily, wondering if I find the rooster dropping, but evidently it remains somewhere in the box. The old woman pulls her kimono sleeves back up her arms with a cord loop over her sleeveless work jacket, then crouches down in front of the hearth fire. I take out my sketchbook and draw her profile as we talk. It's lovely and quiet, isn't it? Yes, just a little small mountain as you can see. Do you get bush warblers singing? Yes, indeed. You hear them every day. They sing in summer too around here. I would love to hear one now. When none is singing, you really long to hear one. Unfortunately, it's not the day for it. They have gone off somewhere to get out of the rain. The hearth has meanwhile begun to emit a crackling sound, and suddenly a scarlet flame shoots up a foot or more into the air, sending out a rush of heat. Here you are. Come and warm yourself, she urges. You must be cold. A column of blue smoke rises to meet the edge of the eaves, where it thins and dissipates, leaving faint wisps trailing in under the wooden roof. Ah, this feels good. You've brought me back to life. The rain's cleared off nicely now. Look, you can see the Tengu Rock. The storm has resolutely swept across the section of the mountain before us in apparent impatience at the spring sky's timid clouds, and there, where the old woman points, a towering rock like a rough-hewn pillar now soars against the brilliant blue left in the storm's relentless wake. This must be Tengu Rock. I gaze first at the rock, then back at the woman, then finally I hold them both in my line of sight, comparing. As an artist, My mind contains only two old women's images, the face of the woman of the no play and that of the mountain crone of Rosetsu's painting. When I saw Rosetsu's painting, I understood the eerie power inherent in the ideal image of the old woman. This was a figure to set among autumn leaves, I thought, or beneath a cold moon. Seeing No play at the Hosho Theater, on the other hand, I was astonished at how gentle her expression can be. That old woman mask could only have been created by a master carver, though, unfortunately, I failed to learn the artist's name. This portrayal brought out rich, tranquil warmth in the image, something that would be not unfitting depicted in a gilt screen, say, or set against spring breezes and cherry blossoms. As this old woman stands here, bare arm and drawn up to her full height, one hand shading her eyes while the other points into the distance, her figure seems to match the scene of the mountain path in the spring better than does the rugged form of the Tengu rock beyond. I take out my sketchbook again, and in the hope that she would hold the pose just a little longer, but in the moment she moves, "You look in fine shape, I must say," I remark as I idly hold the sketchbook towards the fire to dry it. "Yes, praise be. I keep in good health. I can still use a sewing needle, and spin flax, and grind the dumpling flour." I have a sudden desire to watch her at work at the handmill, but since I can't very well request this, I change the subject. "Nakoi is over 2 miles from here, is that right?" "Yes, it's close to 2 miles. You're heading there for the hot spring, are you?" "I thought I might stay there for a bit. If it's not too crowded, I'll see how I feel." "Oh no, it won't be. Since the war began, the guests have dropped right off. It's as good as closed right now." "That's odd. Well, perhaps they won't put me up there, would they?" "No, they're happy to put up with anyone who asks. There's only one place to stay, isn't there?" "Yes, just ask for Shioda's, and you'll have no trouble finding it. It is hard to tell whether Mr. Shioda keeps it more as an inn or as his own country retreat." "So it wouldn't matter to him if there weren't any guests then?" "Is this your first visit, sir?" "No, I came through once long time ago." The conversation flags. I open up my sketchbook again and peacefully set about sketching the chickens. Then, deep in the quietness, the soft clang of a distant horse bell begins to penetrate my ears. It sets up a rhythm inside my head that grows into kind of a tune. It's like the dreamy feeling of being half aware as you doze of the soft, insistent sound of the handmill turning the door. I pause in my sketching to jot down the side of the page. Spring wind, in the Izan's ears, the sound of a horse's bell. I have already come across 5 or 6 horses on my way up the mountain, all of them elaborately girthed in the old style and belt. They seem scarcely belong to the present world. Before the long tranquil strain of the pack horse driver's song break through my poetic reveries of an unpeopled path winding on among empty mountain into the far depths of spring, there is something carefree within the plaintive sorrow of the singing voice, and it strikes my ears as the might of a song from a painting. The driver's song, crossing Suzuka's far past, spring rain falling. Having jotted these words diagonally on the page, I realize it is not in fact my own poem. "Oh, someone else has come," remarks the old woman, half to herself. "Since there's only one path across the mountains, all who come and go must pass by her tea house. Each of those 5 or 6 horses I've met must have come down the path and climbed back up it again." To these same murmured words, "Here, in this tiny settlement, strewn up blossoms deep wherever feet might tread, down the years she has counted the bells through the changeless springs along the hushed and lonely road, till now her hair is white with the years of counting." Turning over a page, I write, The driver's song, white hair untouched by color, spring draws to its end. But the poem doesn't manage to express all I'm feeling. It will need some further thought. Staring at the tip of my pencil, I'm pondering how I might combine the phrase white hair with age-old melody and the theme words, the driver's song, add a season word for spring, and put it all into a haiku 17 syllable when a loud voice cries, "Hello there!" And in front of the shop stands the pack horse driver himself. "Well, well, so it's you again. You're off down to town again, eh? If you have anything you want from there, just let me know. I'll bring up here for you." "Well, then, if you are passing through the Kajicho area, could you bring me a ray gun temple talisman for my daughter?" "Right, I'll get one for you." "Just one?" "Your Aki's made a fine marriage. It's a happy thing, isn't that so?" "Praise be. She wants for nothing in daily life. I suppose that's a happy thing, yes?" "Of course it is. Just compare her with the Nakoi girl." "Oh, poor thing. And so good looking too. Is she any better these days?" "Nah, just the same as ever." "What a shame." The old woman heaved a sigh. "A shame it is," Gen agrees, stroking his horse nose. The rain that has streamed out of the distant sky is still held pooled in every leaf and blossom of the luxuriantly branching cherry tree nearby, and a passing gust of wind chooses this moment to catch the tree off guard, so that it finds itself toppling the heavy drops down from the precarious home aloft with a sudden shower of sound. Startled, the horse tosses its long mane up and down. "Whoa there!" scolds Gen, his voice combining with the changing of the horse bells to break through my meditation. "You know, Gen," the old woman goes on, "I can still see before my eyes the sight of her when she went off as a bride, sitting there on the horse in that lovely long-sleeved wedding kimono with a patterned hem and her hair up in the Kakashimada style. Yes, she didn't go down by the boat, did she? We used the horse. She stopped off here on her way through, I remember." "That's right. The horse stopped under the cherry there. And then just there was a little flurry of falling petals. The splendid Takashimada hair was all dotted with them." I opened my sketchbook again. This scene could be a painting or a poem. I picture in my mind's eye the figure of the bride, imagine the scene as if it were before me. Pleased by myself, I jot down, "Praise to be the bride who rides across the mountains through blossoming spring." The odd is that though, although I can clearly picture her clothes and hair and the horse and the cherry tree, I simply cannot visualize the bride's face. I try out this one and that until the sudden face of Ophelia in Millais' painting spring unbidden to my mind, fitting itself perfectly under the Takashimada hair. This won't do, I think, hastily dismantling my careful picture in order to restart afresh. But though the clothes and hair and the horse and the cherry tree all disappear instantly from the scene, the figure of Ophelia, floating hands folded down the stream, still hovers dimly in the depths of consciousness, like smoke that rag broom cannot quite manage to dispel from the air. I have a weird sense of something like foreboding, as if I have witnessed a comet suddenly trail its light across the sky. "Right then, if you excuse me, I'll be off," says Gen. "Drop in again on your way back though. I'm afraid that the rain will have made the 7 bends difficult to get around." "Yes, it's a bit hard going," Gen replies as he moves away. His horse sets off behind him. Clang, clang goes the bell. "He's from Nakoi, is he?" "Yes, his name is Genbei. He once led some bride over the pass of his horse. When Shioda's daughter went down to the town as a bride, they put her on a white horse for the bridal processions, and she came along past here with Genbei on the lead rein. Good heavens, how time flies. It'll be 5 years ago this year. One who laments her white hair only when she looks in the mirror must be accounted among the happy. This old woman, who first comprehends the swiftness of turning wheel of time, as she counts off on bent fingers the passage of 5 years, must then surely be closer to the unworldly mountains immortals than to us humans. She would have made a beautiful sight. I wish I had come to see. The old woman gave a chuckle. You can see her still. If you call in at the hot spring, she will be sure to come out to greet you. Aha! So she's still in the village now, is she? If only she were still dressed in that wedding kimono with her hair up in the Takashimada. She may well dress up for you if you ask. I very much doubt this, but the old woman does seem remarkably serious. This is just the sort of situation that journey undertaken in the spirit of artistic non-emotion needs to encounter to make it worthwhile. She's very like the Nagara maiden, actually, remarks the old woman. Her face, you mean? No, I mean the way things turn out for her. Really? Who is this Nagara maiden? The story goes that there was once a beautiful daughter of the village rich man who went by the name of the Nagara maiden. Yes? Well, my dear, 2 men went and fell in love with her at the same time. I see. Her days and nights were spent tossing in agony over whether she should give her heart to the Sasada man or whether it should be the Sasabe man. And she was sorely torn between them till she finally composed a poem that went, as the autumn dew that lies a moment on the tips of the seeding grass, so do I know that I too must fade and be gone from this brief world. And then she threw herself into a pool and drowned. Little could I have dreamed that I would find myself in such a poetic place hearing such a poetic figure, this elegant time-worn tale told in such elegant language. You ought to take a look at the Nagara maiden's grave while you are on your way. If you go a little over half a mile east from here, you will find the old stone grave marker. I immediately decide that I will do just that. The old woman continues, the Nakoi girl had the same ill fortune of being loved by 2 men, you see. One was a man that she met while she was off training in Kyoto. The other was the richest man in the local town. Aha! Which did she give her heart to? She was set on marrying the man in Kyoto, but her parents, no doubt for their own good reason, made her accept the local man. Well, it's a blessing that she didn't end up throwing herself in a pool, isn't it? Ah, but this man wanted her on account of her beauty and talent. He may have been very good for her for all I know, but she had been forced into the marriage and apparently she never got along with him. The family seemed very worried about how it was going, and then along came this war and the bank where her husband worked went bankrupt. After that, she came back home to Nakoi. People say all sorts of things about her, that she's heartless and unfeeling, and so on. She was always such a gentle, reserved girl, but these days, she's apparently turning a little bit wild. Every time Genbei comes through, she tells me how worrying she is. It will ruin my planned picture to hear more. I feel rather as if I have at least stumbled upon the magic feather cloak that will turn me into a mountain immortal, only to have some heavenly being come along and demand that I return it. To find myself dragged back down into the vulgar world again, after having braved the perils of those 7 bands to arrive at this place at last, would destroy the whole point of my aimless journey. If you let yourself become involved with worldly gossip past a certain point, the stench of the human world seeps in through the pores of your skin and its grime begins to weigh you down. "This road goes straight through Nakoi, doesn't it?" I inquire, rising to my feet and tossing a small coin onto the table. "If you take a shortcut by following the path down to the right from the Nagara Maiden's gravestone, it's a quick half-mile. The path's rough, but it's probably a better way for a young gentleman like yourself." "This is a very generous payment, sir. Take good care." That's the end of chapter 2. It's a quite quick chapter. I think I can do one more chapter. Yeah? You guys are still there? Chapter 3. Me? I had a coffee. I feel like I need another cup of coffee.
Stretch.
Okay, I'll stretch again. My God. Chapter 3, Kusamakura.
Have you ever had a dream you can know, you wanna know,
Yes, thank you. It's the best song ever, basically. We always must make sure that we have a dream. That's the lesson from that song. You guys are so cute. You guys enjoying the picnic basket? Yummy, yummy. Okay, chapter 3. Kusamakura by Natsume Sōseki. The evening is a strange and unsettling one. It is 8 o'clock at night by the time I arrive at the inn, so even my sense of direction is somewhat confused, let alone my grasp of the layout of the house and the type of garden it has. I'm taken along a very winding passageway of some sort and finally shown into a small 6-mat sized room. The place is quite unlike my memory of it from the previous visit. I have my dinner, take a bath, return to my room, and am sipping tea when the maid arrives and offers to lay out the bedding. The strange thing is that it is this same maid who has done everything since I arrived, answering the door to me, serving the evening meal, showing me to the bathhouse, and now laying out my bed. What's more, she's scarcely spoken a word, though she doesn't seem particularly contrite in her ways. Earlier, I followed behind this girl as she wound up along the endless passageway and staircase to my room, and chastely knotted red obi around her waist and an old-fashioned oil taper in her hand, and then I followed the same obi and oil taper down the same passageway staircase on and on as she led me to the bathhouse, feeling almost as if I was a figure coming and going in a painting. While serving my evening meal, she apologized that I have to put up with such a room, normally used for other purposes, since the recent lack of guests means the guest rooms haven't been cleaned. Later, as she leaves after preparing the bedding, she says a gentle, slow "good night" that has some human warmth to it. But after her footsteps have grown distant and vanished down the twisting corridors, all is hushed and still, and I am uncomfortably aware of the lack of sense of human presence in this place. I have had this experience once only before. It was the time that I traveled across the Boshu province from Tateyama and followed the coast around on foot by Kazusan Choshi. One night I stayed at a certain place along the road. I can't put it any more clearly, since both the name of the area and the name of the inn are now quite forgotten. In fact, I'm not even sure it was an inn where I stayed. It was a high-roofed house containing only 2 women. I asked if they could put me up, and the older woman said yes, and the younger invited me to follow her. We passed through a number of large, dilapidated rooms to the farthest room on the mezzanine floor. Having mounted 3 steps from the corridor, I was about to enter the room when a clump of bamboo leaning in under the eaves swayed in the evening breeze and brushed its leaves over me from the shoulder to head, sending chills down to my spine. The balcony boards were rotting. I observed the girl that in another year the bamboo shoots would penetrate the balcony and the room would become overwhelmed by bamboo, but her only response was to grin and leave. That night I couldn't sleep for the rustling of the bamboo near my pillow. Opening the screen doors to the balcony, I looked out and discovered that the garden was a sea of grass. I let my eyes Bye bye. Have fun, Gary. Thank you for dropping by. Thank you for the beats. Thank you. I let my eyes travel out over the scene through the bright summery moonlight. The grass flowed on into a great grassy hill beyond, without any intervening hedge or wall. Directly beyond the hill, the breakers of the mighty ocean thundered in to menace the world of man. I did not sleep a wink until dawn, and as I lay there grimly, hour upon hour, inside the eerie tent of the mosquito net, I felt that I had strayed into a gothic realm of those popular romantic tales of previous era. I have been on many journeys since then, but never again until this night in Nakoi have I had a similar experience. Lying there on my back, I happened to open my eyes and noticed hanging above the sliding doors a piece of calligraphy framed in red lacquer. Even from where I lie, I can clearly read the words "bamboo shadows sweep the air, but no dust move." I can also make out the signature seal gives the calligraphy's name as Daitetsu. Now, I'm in no way of a connoisseur of calligraphy, but I've always loved the style of the Obaku Zen priest Kosen. There's a lot to be said for the calligraphy in Ingen, Sokuhi, Mokuan as well, but Kosen's writing is the most powerful and meticulous. Looking at these 7 characters before me now, both the handling of the brush and the flow of the writing hand convince me that it must be the work of Kosen. But this cannot be. So, as the signature is Daitetsu, I consider the possibility that there might also be a priest named Daitetsu in the Obaku set at the time, but the paper looks far too new. It can surely only be a recent work. I turn on my side. Now, my eyes take in the painting of the cranes by Jakuchu that hangs in the alcove. Art being my line of work, I registered this as a superb piece when I first entered the room. Most Jakuchu works have a quite delicate coloration, but this crane is executed in a single defined brushstroke. The feather-light egg-shaped body, poised jauntily on its single leg, has a wonderful rightness to it, and the sense of nonchalant ease continue right down to the tip of the beak. Beside the alcove, it is a single shelf with a cupboard beyond. What is in the cupboard I cannot tell. I slip into a peaceful sleep, into a dream. The Nagara maiden in her long-sleeved kimono is riding over the mountain pass on a white horse when suddenly the Sasada man and the Sasabe man leaped out on her from either side and both began to pull at her. The girl now suddenly becomes Ophelia, lying upon a drifting willow branch in the water's flow, singing beautifully. I picked up a long pole and raced along the bank in search of a place for which to rescue her, but she floats away and is lost to sight, singing and smiling, apparently perfectly at ease. I stand calling desperately after her, the pole over my shoulder. Then I awaken. My armpits are soaked with sweat. What an extraordinary jumble of poetic and that vulgar that dream was! I think in bemusement. The early Zen priest Dai is said to have suffered greatly from the fact that even the enlightened mind, which has mastered the illusion of reality, is still troubled by dreams of the vulgar world. I can quite see his point. One whose calling in life is the arts surely doesn't cut much of a figure if his dreams aren't a bit more tasteful than the norm. I rolled over, thinking to myself that most of my dreams is quite useless from the point of view of a painting or a poem. And suddenly moonlight is pouring in through the paper screen doors onto the balcony, steeping them with a slanting shadow of several branches from the tree beyond. It is a brilliantly clear spring night. Perhaps I am imagining it, but I think I can hear someone softly singing. I strain to catch the sound, wondering whether the song of my dream has somehow slipped out into the real world, or whether a voice from the real world has insinuated itself into the distant realm of my dream. Yes, someone is definitely singing. Small, a low voice though it is, a thin thread of sound is pulsing faintly in the sleepy spring night. Strangely, it's not only the melody that comes to me. When I concentrate, I can also make out the song's word. Through catching them from such distant singing would seem impossible. They are repeating over and over the song of the Nagara maiden. As the autumn's dew that lies a moment on the tips of the seeding grass, and so do I, that I too must fade and be gone from this brief world. At first the voice sounds quite close to the balcony, but it grows gradually fainter and more distant. When a thing finishes abruptly, you register the abruptness of its ending, and the loss is not deeply moving to you. A voice that breaks off decisively will produce a decisive feeling of completion in the listener, but when the phenomenon fades naturally away towards nothing with no real pause or break, the listening heart shrinks with further dwindling minute and each waning second to a thinner forlornness. Like the beloved dying husband who yet does not die, the guttering flame that still flickers on, this song racks my heart with anticipation of its end and hold within its melody all the bitter sorrows of the world's transient springs. I have been listening from my bed, and as the song grows more distant, my ear aches to follow, though aware that they are being lured with the dwindling of that voice. These ears long to rise of their own accord and fly in yearning pursuit of it. A bare second before the last pounce of sound must surely no longer reach my straining hearing. I can bear it no longer, and in a moment I have slipped from the bed and opened the screen doors to the balcony. The lower part of my leg is instantly bathed in moonlight. The three shadows fall wavering over my night robe. When I first slide open the paper doors, I noticed none of this. Where is that voice? My eyes seek the place where my eager ears have already guessed the answer lies, and there it stands, a vague shadowy shape withdrawn from the moonlight, its back to the trunk of what, judging from the blossoms, might be an aronia tree. Before I have even an instant to try to comprehend what it is, the black shape turns and moves off to the right and trampling the shadow of the blossoms as it goes. Then a tall woman's form slides fluidly around the corner, and the edge of the building that my own room is part of hides her instantly from sight. I stand entranced at the door a while longer, clad only in the single layer of the inn's night robe, until I come to myself again and realize that the spring night of this mountain village is in fact extremely cold. Then I return to the hollow of bedclothes from which I earlier emerged, where I begin to ponder what I have just witnessed. I extract my pocket watch from beneath the pillow. It is 10 minutes past 1. Pushing it back under the pillow, it is 10 minutes past. Pushing it back under the pillow, I think some more. This cannot possibly have been an apparition. If it isn't an apparition, it must be a human, and if it's a human, it was a woman. Perhaps it was the daughter of the household. But it's surely rather unseemly for a woman separated from her husband to come out at night like this and into the garden, and one that merges into the wild hill beyond. Well, be that as it may, the fact is that I cannot sleep. Even the watch under my pillow intrudes my thoughts with its ticking. I've never been bothered before by the sound of my pocket watch, but tonight it seems to be urging and berating me. Let's think, it instructs. Don't sleep. Damn the thing. If you see something frightening simply as what it is, there's poetry in it. If you step back from your reaction and view something uncanny on its own term, simply as an uncanny thing, there's a painting there. It's precisely the same if you chose to take a break as the subject for art. You must forget the pain of your own broken heart and simply visualize in objective terms of tender moments, the moments of empathy or unhappiness, even the moments most redolent in the pain of heartbreak. This will then become the stuff of literature and art. Some will manufacture an impossible heartbreak, put themselves through the agonies and craves its pleasures. The average man considers this to be sheer folly and madness, but someone who willfully creates the lineaments of unhappiness and chose to dwell in this construction has, it must be said, gained precisely the same vantage point as the artist who can produce from his own being some supernatural landscape and then proceed to delight in his self-created magical realm. In this respect, the many artists of the world are madder and more foolish than the average man, at least insofar as they are artists. I say nothing of how they may be in their everyday guise. While we are on our journey, shod in our straw sandals as of yore, we may do nothing but grumble about its hardship from dawn to dusk, but when we come to tell the tale of others, we will never make a murmur of such complaints. No, we will speak smartly of its fascinations and pleasures, and even proudly prattle on about all those things that annoy us so much at the time. We do so not from any intention to deceive ourselves or to lie to others. Rather, the contradictions arises because on the journey we are our everyday selves, while when we tell its tale we speak as poets. I suppose you could say that the artist is one who lives in a three-cornered world, in which the corner that average person would call common sense has been shed off from the ordinary four-square wall that the normal inhabit. For this reason, be it in nature or in human affairs, the artist will see the glitter of priceless jewel of art in places where common hurt fears to tread. The vulgar mind terms it romanticizing, but it is no such thing. In fact, the phenomenal world has always contained the scintillating radiance that artists find there. It's just the eyes blinded by the worldly passions cannot see the true nature of reality. Inextricable entanglements bind us to the common world. We are beset by obsessions with everyday success and failure, and by ardent hopes, and so we pass by unheeding until a turner reveals for us in his painting the splendor of steam train, and an okyo give us the beauty of a ghost. The apparition I've just seen, if viewed simply as that, would certainly be rich with poetry for anyone, no matter who saw or spoke of it. A hot spring in some little village, struck away from the world, shadow blossoms on spring evening, murmured song in the moonlight, a dimly lit figure, every element its perfect subject for the artist. And here I am, confronted with this perfect subject, engaging in useless debates and inquiries on it. Chill reason has intruded itself on this precious realm of refined beauty. Tremulous distaste has trampled upon this unsought moment of artistic elegance. Under the circumstances, it's meaningless to profess my vaunted non-emotional approach. I must put myself through a bit more training in the discipline before I am qualified to boast to others that I am a poet or artist. I've heard that an Italian artist of times gone by, one Salvatore Rosa, risked his life to join a gang of bandits through his single-minded desire to make a study of a robber. Having so jauntily set off on this journey, sketchbook tucked into my kimono, I would be ashamed to show any less resolve. In order to regain the poetic point of view of this occasion, I have only to set up before myself my own feelings, then take a step back from them and calmly, dispassionately investigate their true nature. The poet has an obligation to dissect his own corpse and reveal the symptoms of its illness to the world. There are various ways to achieve this, but the most successful immediate one is to try jotting everything down in 17-syllable haiku form, with whatever words spring to mind. The haiku is the simplest and handiest form of poetry. You can compose one with ease while you are washing your face, or on the toilet, or on the train, but that's no reason to disparage haiku. No one should try to claim that because the haiku is easily achieved, becoming a poet therefore costs one little. And since to be a poet is to be in some sense of enlightenment, there must therefore be easily achieved. I believe that the simpler a thing is, the greater it is its virtue, and thus the haiku should rather be revered. Let's imagine something that has made you a little angry. Then and there, you put your anger into 17 syllables. No sooner do you do so than your anger is transformed into that of another. You cannot be angry and write a haiku at the same time. Or say, you weep a little. Put those tears into 17 syllables and there you are. You are immediately happy. Making a haiku of your tears frees you from their bitterness, and now you are simply happy to be a man who is capable of weeping. This has long been my conviction. Now, the time has come to put my belief into action, and I lie here in bed trying out this and that haiku in my head. Since I must approach this task as a conscientious discipline, I open my sketchbook and lay it by the pillow, knowing that I must write down any poems that comes, or my focus will blur and my attempts comes to nothing. I first write, the maddened woman setting the dewdrops trembling on the Aronia. Reading it over, I feel it isn't particularly interesting, but neither it is downright bad. Then I try. Shadow of blossoms, shadowed form of a woman, hazy on the ground. This one has too many seasoned words. Still, what does it matter? The point of the exercise is simply to become calm and detached. Inari's fox god has changed to a woman's shape under the hazed moon. But this one is quite absurd, and I have to laugh. At this rate, all will be well. I am now enjoying myself, and I began jotting poem after poem as each occurs to me. Shaking down the stars out of the spring night, she wears them bright in her hair. New washed hair, perhaps dampened by moisture from the clouds of these nights of spring. Oh, spring! This evening of the beauteous figure deigned to sing the world her song. Such a moonlit night, when from the aronia tree its spirit issues forth. Poem upon poem, wandering here and there in the spring moonlight. Now, at last, spring draws swiftly to its finish. How alone I am. As I scribble away, a drowsiness creeps upon me. Perhaps the word entranced is the most fitting to use here. No one can remain aware in this deep sleep when the mind is conscious and clear. On the other hand, no one can completely oblivious to the outside world. But between these two states exists a fragile realm of phantasm and visions, too vague to be called walking, too alert to be termed sleep. It is as if the two worlds of sleep and waking were placed in a single pot and thoroughly mixed together with a brush of poetry. Nature's real color are spread thin to the very door of the realm. In the universe is drawn unaltered by a little way inside the misty dream. The magic hand of Morpheus moved from the real world surface all their sharp angles, while within this softened realm a tiny pulse of self still faintly beats. Like smoke that clings to the ground and cannot rise, your soul cannot quite bring itself to leave it behind its physical shell. The spirit hovers, hesitant yet urging to find release, until you finally can no longer sustain it into this unfeeling realm. And now the invisible distillation of the universe pervades and wraps itself whole about the body, producing a sensation of clinging, of yearning, of love. I am wandering in this realm between sleep and waking when the door from the corridor slides smoothly open, and suddenly in the doorway appears like a phantom the shape of a woman. I am not surprised, nor am I afraid. I simply gaze at it with pleasure. The word gaze is perhaps a little strong. Rather say that the phantom slips easily in under my closed eyelids. It comes gliding into the room, traveling soundlessly over the matting like a spirit lady walking on water. Since I am watching from beneath closed eyelids, I cannot be sure. But she seems pale, long-necked, possessed of a luxuriance of hair. The effect is rather like the blurred photographs that people produce these days, held up to view against the lamplight. The phantom pauses before the cupboard. It opens, and a white arm emerges smoothly from the sleeve, glimmering softly into the darkness. The cupboard closes again. The waters of the matting float the phantom back across them to the door. The sliding door closes of its own accord. Gradually, I slip down into a rich, deep sleep, a state that I imagine must resemble that in which you have died to your human form, but have not yet taken on the horse or ox form that is to be yours in your next life. How long I lie there, hovering in that realm between human and animal form, I cannot tell. I awaken with the soft chuckle of a woman's laughter sounding at my ear. The curtains of night has long since been drawn back. The world that meets my eye is flooded with light. As I lie there taking in the sight of this sweet spring sunlight pouring brilliantly in, shadowing the bamboo lattice work in the round window by the alcove, I feel convinced that nothing eerie could work in this bright world. Mystery has crossed back over the river in the dead and retreated once more to the limbo realm beyond. I take myself off to the bathhouse in the night robe and dreamily float there with my face barely above water for 5 minutes or so, feeling inclined neither to wash nor to leave. Why do I find myself in such a strange state last night? How extraordinary that the world should tumble over head over heels like that between day and night. Drying myself is too much of an effort, so I leave it at that and go back to the dressing room still dripping. But when I slide open the bathhouse door from within, another shock greets me. Good morning. I hope you slept well. These words are almost simultaneous with my opening of the door. I have no idea anyone would stare, so this sudden greeting takes me completely by surprise, and before I can produce any response, the voice continues, Here, put this on. The owner of the voice steps around behind me, and a soft kimono is slipped over my shoulders. At last, I manage. Why, thank you. Turning as I speak, and as I do so, the woman takes 2 or 3 steps back. The supreme effort that goes into describing these features of a hero or heroine has long been a determiner of a novel's worth. Were one to enumerate all the words in every language of East and West from classical times until now that writers have devoted to evaluating the qualities of beautiful women, the list may well rival in length to complete canon of the Buddhist Sutra. How many words would it take, I wonder, if I were to select among this truly dismaying assemblage of adjectives those that might best describe the woman now standing 3 paces away, twisting her body diagonally to look at me out of the corner of her eye, comfortably taking in my astonishment and bewilderment. In my 30 some years, I have never until this moment seen such an expression as is on her face. The ideal of classical Greek sculpture, I understand, can be summed up in the phrase of poised containment, which seems to signify the energy of the human form held poised for action. The resonance of such figure subtly inheres in that moment before the figures move and changes into unguessable energies, swirling clouds or echoing thunder, which is surely why the significance of that form still reaches us across the centuries. All the dignity and solemnity is to be found in the world lies hidden beneath this quality of poised containment. Once the figure moves, what is implicit becomes revealed, and the revelation inevitably brings some resolution into one thing or another. Any resolution, of course, will always contain its own particular power, but once the movement has begun, matters will soon degenerate into mere sludge and squalor, and there will be no going back to the harmonious serenity of the original form. For this reason, whatever has motion is always finally vulgar. The fierce sculptures of temple gardens that Unkei created, or the lively cartoon figures of Hokusai, both ultimately fail for this simple reason. Should we depict motion or stillness? This is the great problem that governs the fate of us artists. The majority of the words used down to the centuries to describe beautiful women can surely be placed in either one of these 2 great categories. But when I look at the expression of the woman before me, I am at loss to decide to which category it belongs. The mouth is still a single line. The eyes, on the other hand, dart constantly about as if intent on missing nothing. The face is the classic beauty of a pale oval, a little plump on the chin, replete with the calm serenity, yet cramped narrow forehead, has a somehow vulgar Mount Fuji widow's peak hairline. The eyebrows tend inward. Moreover, the brows twitches with nervous irritability, but the nose has neither the sharpness of a frivolous nature nor the roundness of a dull one. It would be beautiful painted. All these various elements comes pressing incoherently in upon my eyes, each one with its own idiosyncratic character. Who can wonder that I feel bewildered? Imagine that a fault appears in the earth where once Stillness has reigned, and the whole begins to move. Aware that movement is contrary to its original nature, it strives to return to its original immobility. Yet, once unbalanced, momentum compels it to continue its motion, so that now we see a form that from sheer despair chooses to flaunt the movement and force on it. Were such a form to exist, it would serve precisely to describe the woman before me. Thus, beneath the derision evident in her features, I sensed the urge to reach out and cling. From within the superficial mockery glimmers a prudent wisdom, for all the bravado that suggests her wit and spirit would be more than a match for 100 men. A tender compassion wells in its depth. Her expression simply has no consistency. In the appearance she presents, enlightenment and confusion dwell together, quarrelling beneath the ruined roof. The singular lack of any impression of unity in this woman's face is a proof of a lack of lack of unity in her heart, which is surely owing to a lack of unity in her world. It is the face of one compelled to misfortune, who is struggling to defeat that misfortune. Unquestionably, she is an unhappy woman. Bowing slightly, I repeat my thanks. In reply, she laughs briefly. Your room has been cleaned. Go and see. I'll call on you later. No sooner has she spoken than she twists swiftly about and lightly runs off down the corridor. I watch her go. Her hair is up in the simple butterfly wing Ichogaishi style, and below the sweep of hair, a white neck is visible. It strikes me that the black satin weaves of the obi at her waist would be only a facing. And that is the end of chapter 3, and I'm gonna take a break, and we shall continue on Wednesday. What do you think? That is the end for today's reading session. I don't want to read too much because I want to pace myself and pace the book as well. I think I can probably do yeah. I don't know. I guess okay if I stop here. Or do you all want one more chapter? Let me know. I'm okay either way. Thank you, Mash. Thank you. Aw, thank you. Thank you for listening, Mash. Thank you for coming here. It's your first time here, right? And thank you for the follow too. It's really thank you. It really means a lot. Tomorrow? No, not tomorrow. Tomorrow I am busy from morning till night. But on the 1st of February, we'll continue on Wednesday. Oh, thank you so much. I'll try to read better. Every time I finish reading, I always say that I'll try to read better, but I never do. Not tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm so busy. Super busy tomorrow. Tomorrow. Wednesday. So as usual Wednesday. I think, right? I'm not 100% sure yet, but I think I may or may not start playing Final Fantasy VIII on stream on one of these days. Maybe one of the maybe this weekend, or maybe like one of these days. I don't know. I'm really interested if you guys will be interested in watching me play Final Fantasy 8. I know someone will be interested, but I'll have to stream it in the evening because yeah, feels like I get more viewers if when I play game. Feels like I get more viewers in the evening. Not that having viewers is like the most important thing. Play 8, yeah. I'll stream it. I don't know yet. Definitely not tomorrow. Definitely maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Thursday evening, or I'm not sure. But yeah, my next reading session will be on Wednesday. So Mash, to stay tuned. Come back on Wednesday. Wednesday is what date? Sorry, the 1st of February. Come back on 1st of February. 11 a.m. GMT plus 8 as usual. We will continue Kusamakura by Natsume and Sōseki. And then after that, the next reading session will be on Friday, 11 a.m. GMT plus 8 as usual. I can finish Kusamakura this week. Then next week I can start. I'm really trying to read one book per week. Thank you, Mash, for being here. I'm really trying to do one book per week so that I can have like a very routine schedule, like a proper schedule, proper stream schedule. But I'm so lazy. Like as of now, I'm doing like one book per month, which is terrible. I really need to do better if I really want to stream properly. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone in my game, Mash, Coco, Anata de Coco, Dien. Thank you. Welcome back, Dien. By the way, thank you so much for helping me out with the party finder. And to those in my Twitch chat, thank you so much for being here, for listening to me read. I'm always constantly trying to read better, read slower, read clearer, so that you guys can enjoy the story as much as I do. But I do have a problem with rushing my sentence a lot, as evidently. But yeah, I'll try my best to do better next time. Alright, I'm not gonna stop you guys from going. You guys can leave anytime now. Thank you so much for being here once again. Have a great lunch. Have a great end of January. Isn't it crazy? It's a month in, like, we're going into the second month of a new year already, and I barely felt the difference from 2022. It's terrifying how time just passed by so fast. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. But anyway, yeah. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Dien, for coming back to help me out. Thank you for being my manager. You already wasted a month? What did you... You didn't waste a month. You did a lot of things. No, never say that you waste anything. I mean, it's just maybe just the regret of not doing enough. But I'm pretty sure we all have done as much as we could in a single month. So anyway, thank you so much. Thank you, Swiss Roll. Yeah, it's way too fast. It's just passing way too fast. It's scary. It's scary. I don't know what to do. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I truly, every time, I don't know if you guys can feel my sincerity, but I really appreciate all of you who are in my stream and in game and everything. I'm going to send you all off with my favorite song in the world. Go eat your lunch. Don't starve yourself. Whatchamacallit? I'll see you guys on. Follow me on Twitter, Ariana Luna. I'll show you a quick link, okay? Eh? Follow me on Twitter. I always announce when I go live. Not just for Moondibles, but also for my other live streams. Possibly Final Fantasy 8, possibly continuing my Yakuza 6. Possibly a lot of possibilities. I'm just trying to work harder at creating a routine for myself. So anyways, thank you so much for being here. Yes, thank you so much. I will see you guys next time, and I'll send you all off with my favorite song in the world. Have you ever had a dream?
Have you ever had a dream that you can know, you can know, you wanna know,
Yes. Oh, and join my Discord. Yes, it's a pretty dead Discord, but oh yeah, oh my god, I forgot to even. You see, I'm so bad at these things. I'm telling you, I don't even remember to tell people on my Discord that I'm going live. Join my Discord. Join my follow me on Twitter. I have lots of. I just babbles, man. I never know when to stop fucking babbling. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys soon. Wednesday. Bye bye.